I've lived 1,000 lives. I've piloted 1,000 souls. I've killed and fought at night just for another role.
This is the Happy Jacks RPG podcast, a roundtable discussion that's a mix of friendship, humor, unbridled enthusiasm, and tabletop RPG topics sent in from around the world.
Just for another role.
Hello!
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome to Season 32, Episode 18 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Kimmy.
Hello, I'm Alex.
I'm Pooja.
Yes. In today's episode, Verk from DC asks about getting what you need out of an RPG. Anonymous GM is unmasked from a couple episodes ago. They wrote in with a question about their particular playgroup, and haha, now you have to listen to find out who it is. Ken from Canada also sends in a lightning round of questions. If you'd like to contribute a question or story to the show, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. Announcements. Game Days is September 23rd, so come sign up to run or play games in our Discord. It's completely free. All types of games are welcome. Safety tools are required for all games. And all you have to do is show up in the Discord, like nothing else. It's free.
You don't
and
even
for
need
fun.
pants.
You just
No.
you can just play without pants.
Yeah,
My favorite way to play.
absolutely.
The only way to play.
Yeah. So come do that. If you go to happyjacks.org/Discord, you can join our Discord. And it's pretty, I have to say, it's a pretty awesome place. I love it. It's very cool. And also, Big Bad Con is September 28th through October 1st at the Hyatt Regency San Francisco Airport. A bunch of us are going to be there in a bunch of different capacities with Happy Jacks and with a bunch of other groups too. It is sure to be an amazing, wild time. I'm very excited. I've never been to Big Bad Con before. So, I'm running Starscape twice, and then I'm signed up for 2 slots of Games on Demand where I will either run Decima or Virgins and Vixens, depending on who shows up and what they want to run. Yeah, Virgins and Vixens has been like the dark horse, is super popular when I'm at cons and having a booth now. Like everyone's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Well, this is Decima. It won an any." Okay, that's Virgins and
Got a
Vixens.
good name though.
It does.
It's
It
such
gets
a
nice.
good name, and it's such a fun game. We always get questions or people asking about pick up and go games. Like Virgins and Vixens is right there for you.
Yeah, it's true. So, which is also the other reason I'm taking it, because it's like Decima and Virgins and Vixens, very little or zero prep at all. Yeah. So, aren't you? What are you running out?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna be running 2 of the first ever open play tests of the game that I've been working on. It's called Confluence RPG. I've been working on it with a bunch of friends under the Publishing Goblin group, which is very cool. So we're showcasing Confluence, and we'll also have a little booth on Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. And then I'm also running my own home-written workbook adventure called Belly of the Cat God at Big Bad Con. And I know that I'm going to be on 2 panels. Sarah's, I think, going to be on 2 panels, 1 or 2 panels as well. So they'll be there too. And
That's awesome.
we have a bunch of friends. who will be hanging out.
Yeah.
That's
Kai's going to be
awesome.
there. Jason,
Oh, yeah.
Dave are going to be there.
Kai's performing at the Transplanter live show.
Yeah,
which
that's
is
awesome.
very exciting.
Yeah. So
Nice.
there's going to be a contingent. I know there's a bunch of listeners who are going. If you're going to Big Bad Con, also, I have, hopefully they'll arrive in time. If they arrive in time, I'll have little badge ribbons. So come and put a little badge ribbon that says Happy Jacks RPG Network. Except it doesn't say that like that because it's just in font, so it doesn't have a weird voice like I just did at all. It's fine. It's normal. It's totally normal. I'm sleep deprived. Anyway. So yeah, those are our announcements. Indie Designer of the Month. This month, we are still talking about Cesar Capacal. I'm really sleep deprived. A Brazilian game designer, graphic designer, architect, and musician. And he just has too many talents. We've decided it's not fair. You can find his work at quirky.games. And he is at Capacal, Capacle, on Twitter. This week, we're talking about his game, Run. You're running, escaping, stumbling on your own legs. Your short breaths are labored, shaky. Something is after you. You don't know what it is, but you know it won't quit. Your life is at stake. You feel that it is close, as if a claw is sliding down the back of your neck. And you don't know. Oh, and you know you must not look back. Run. So Run is a solo narrative game inspired by the slasher horror movie genre. The game uses a standard deck of cards and a customized system that pushes the story forward while revealing dark and mysterious aspects of the events, the threat, and yourself. Through 16 scenes, you play a collection of memories and try to piece together what is happening while you run for your life and try not to run out of breath. So,
See, this is the perfect timing to showcase this game.
Yeah.
'cause
Yeah,
Spooky
October.
season.
Halloween season.
and it's $14.90, which is a very specific price, USD at capital.itch.io. And again, like if you go check it out, like Cesar's pages are just like the best itch.io pages I've ever seen. Like beautiful gifs of like the books turning pages. And so you see the whole inside. I'm just like, okay. Like again, like architect, musician, badass itch.io pages, like leave some for the rest of us. Leave some for the rest of us, I'm just going to say. But also I am really going to pick up that game for Halloween. It's amazing. All right. Mailbag number 1. I'm not going to read it. Someone else should read it. I read the rest of it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Getting what you need out of a game. Dear Empress Kimmy and her Jacker Court, let's talk about friends. In my home game, it's 5 of my favorite people. Close personal friends I've known for over a decade. We've been playing our TTRPGs for almost that whole time together, and I love it. Big fun, lots of laughs, and stuff always exploding. You cannot find a group of people that are more fun. And yet, I think I need a change. Over the 10 years I've been playing TTRPGs, I've changed. Although I deeply love blowing stuff up and making jokes while drinking beer, I also, as Jason puts it, want to make them kiss. What I mean is, I want more emotion. It doesn't have to be romance. Romance is complicated, and I understand that, but I do want strong emotion. Something that brought this to the forefront of my mind was playing Alice is Missing with some of the Happy Jack Discord. You should join the Discord if you're listening to this podcast. This game made me feel like intense emotion. I had an in-game fight with Rose that actually got my heart pounding. I hated her character and what she said to my character. I was thrilled. I kid you not, I thought about this game for months.
Yeah.
But this showed me what I was missing. I want more. I tried to lead my players down these kind of paths, but in the end, they didn't want it. And that is fine. It's not them, it's me. I get that. So then I thought about trying to go to more cons to get that emotion in gaming. But I don't think I want to be that open around people I don't know.
Mood.
So what does that mean? Does that mean starting over from scratch? Like, do I need a new home group? Maybe it's time to try and get 2 weekly games going on alternate weeks. Sorry, I guess this isn't a question. So, have you all found yourselves needing more than your current group can give you? What did you do? Burke from DC, missing CA. P.S. Drink.
Huzzah.
This,
I think I'm the only one actually drinking tonight, but
you're also the one who doesn't have a drive home.
that's fair. Yeah, this is a big mood. Burke, good job. Yeah, this is, I feel like I have 100% changed. Having actually played with the group you're talking about also, they are great, amazing, wonderful people, but I can see like when I was running a game for them, they did have that. They were very into like the combat, the fighting. We had so much fun, but I can see that they might not be into something where it's taking the phrase Jason says, they want to kiss, you know? And especially because you've been friends with them for so long. Like, I think you've been friends since like late childhood, like high school. I might be wrong on that, but I might be conflating you with Dave, who's also like has friends from like 2nd grade that he's still friends with, which is weird to me, but okay.
But yeah, over a decade.
As
long
someone
time.
as someone who literally lives down the street from someone I went to high school with and have been friends with them since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, which is hilarious because this is literally a different coach than we went to school on.
That is
Okay,
wild.
that is weird.
but yeah, like it's not as much as this sounds like a breakup letter, you don't have to break up with your with your gaming group. You don't have to.
Yeah.
I feel like we all go through that. Like you as a person hopefully grow and change and like different experiences. You want different stuff out of life. You want different stuff out of your games, like as you go through time and playing. And in general, like my solution has always been to like find more games.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was going to say too. You specifically bring up that you played Alice is Missing, and that is a game that does not hold back on punching
No.
you very hard with emotion. So sometimes switching a game system can be a good way to tell your players that you're interested.
Yeah. So, Alex, what is Alice is Missing?
I should talk about Alice is Missing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Alice is Missing is a silent role-playing game that's in some ways kind of similar to a board game in that you are using cards. It's a card-based game, but you're also texting each other through play instead of talking to each other through role play. You take on the role of 3 to 4 people, young, or actually I would say they've graduated high school, young people who are looking for their missing friend Alice. And as you're exploring the town, searching for clues, you're also talking about your personal relationships to each other and to the missing person.
Mhm.
It's also got some great stuff about power dynamics in small towns, as well as suspects. So things like the relationships you might have with your childhood bully or a teacher or
I'm sorry. I don't. Why did you gesture at me when you said
a teacher, you know,
Excuse
the
me.
history teacher and
Yeah.
how those suspicions come to
Yeah.
light. But it's a great game to play with strangers because the prompts that you get are about talking in character without having to communicate directly. And for some people, talking over text is a way to be more emotional than in person.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Because, like, I really feel this. I don't know if I want to be that open and vulnerable with people I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, like, that barrier, like, it's much easier for me to, like, hop into Discord or like, a social media and,
Yeah.
like, just throw some stuff out into the void that, like, I wouldn't actually be able to say in real life to somebody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which, like, I'm not talking about being toxic and harassing people. I'm talking about, like, being emotional and open.
Mhm.
So yeah, like, I love that, like, there's that other layer where you can, like, still feel kind of safe in your cocoon because you're just, like, thumbs on.
Yeah. And it is incredibly emotional. Like the game that I played, also the Discord. I can't remember if it was a different game or with Verk. I don't remember. Because that's one of the things that's really interesting about it is because usually I have very clear visual memories of a table when I'm playing. But this game you don't. Like, especially through Discord, like we all like shut off the cameras and we all just like you were living in text, and it was incredibly emotional. Like a bunch of us were crying, and like some of the people who played I'd never really interacted with. They were on the Discord, and like I'd had like passing like conversations with them a bit, but they weren't like people like I like DM all the time and stuff like that. So it was amazing, and it was intense. It did absolutely, like, I also like I still kind of think about that game sometimes. And that's how I like that was my first game Lloyd like GM'd, even though it's not really like a GM, it's very different. But yeah, it's just so wild, and it's a whole new level of just tapping into things, because I think one, it taps into those feelings we all have, well, not, most of us have left over from high school. Whether you had a good experience or a bad experience or whatever it is, you can kind of skin Alice is Missing with that. And it is in some ways very personal, because it's written in a way where you can be a vision of who you'd wanted to be or who you were. So it immediately, you click into something that is so familiar that you feel like you're playing a character that you've been playing forever, because you're kind of playing an aspect of yourself, which is really magical. And I would love to be able to copy that from a design standpoint. I also feel I'm ranting, sorry.
No,
But
not at all.
there's like a time aspect, which I know we've talked about on the show before, where you play like this music soundtrack that goes with it, and it's literally a countdown. Those of you who are like super old might remember the board game Nightmare from like the 80s or 70s. I don't know. My mom had it, and they played it when I was little, and I wasn't allowed to be up when they played it. And
I gotta check this out.
it's a thing. You play a board game and you play the video. It's like a VHS tape.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it's like, and I don't remember exactly, because it's like a board game. You're like racing around doing something, I don't know, and it's all like kind of like spooky themed, and it's just like this ambient music, and then every once in a while, like this terrifying dude called the Crypt Keeper like appears and like shouts at you. Like, and it was very scary to me as a child. I just remember how like, oh my God, that's scary.
Yeah.
But then I was very proud the one time I was finally old enough to get to play it with them. And it's sort of that same thing. You have a very set time, and then as you're running out of time, he starts appearing more often. So it gives you the sense of urgency, so you kind of throw yourself into it. I mean, I have no idea if Nightmare does that. I have very visceral memories of like him, and then nothing else about the board game. But I mean, I was like 6 or 7. So, but Alice is Missing has that same like urgency as you feel the time, like the time is running out. You feel it. The music actually crescendos and like changes as it goes, and it causes like these emotional changes in you, which is another amazing thing about it, which I think heightens and enhances and like ups the emotion, because I as a musician, I love how music can do that, and it's just really masterfully done in a way that amplifies emotions even for people who already are interested in playing out emotional stories. Sorry, that was a lot of information.
No, that's great. Like, I haven't gotten the chance to play it, and I am definitely
It's a good
like,
time.
it's like shifting directly to the top of the
Yeah.
to be played list.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with the TBR, which is just like a set of books that I may or may not get to in my lifetime.
Well, the cool thing about it too is it doesn't really take any prep. I mean, there is some prep. You have to like turn over cards in a certain order, but there's actually a Discord app thing that does
Yeah,
it
there's
all
a
nice.
Discord bot that you can
Yeah.
Nice.
get. So just
Bot,
like
I'm sorry,
let
the
them know that you bought the game, and they'll get you set up with the Discord bot.
Yeah.
in Hunter's Discord.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, but I do think it's interesting that Alice is Missing is brought up as a good example, because I've also had the experience of playing Alice is Missing with strangers and then having it be very emotional, people I'd never played an RPG with before. But if you're trying to add more like angst and emotion to a home game, I can understand how maybe you could do Alice and you would still have an emotional experience, but you wouldn't get that like ongoing weekly satisfying, I just want my characters to be so emotional, I want to cry about them all the time. So
Yeah.
Like, I mean, having heightened emotions and like, yes, angst, but like it also, I feel like people have this idea that like when you are running, like when you run a game that has heightened emotions in it, that it is like 10 out of 10 angst all the time.
Yeah.
And they're really not like that.
No.
You don't actually want to be in a game that's
No.
10 out of 10 angst for
it's
like
exhausting.
Yeah.
like weeks and months on
Yeah,
end.
not good.
But it does sound like you have tried to like broach that with your players that
Yeah.
you currently have in your home game.
Yeah.
And if they're not open to it, they're not open to it. But like it's worth reaching out and seeing if like maybe if you put other groups together, or like this is where I think like it sounds like you GM this game, and this is where like rather than putting together a new group and you running a game for them, you find a group to play with, because your investment, your time and emotional investment in that is like much less than when you have to create a game, which I'm sure we all know. But like I think sometimes we forget with Forever GMs that even though you're putting more into it emotionally, like you can end up feeling like you have more energy at the end of it versus less. But when you're GMing all the time, it can kind of feel like a drain.
Yeah. It gets hard.
And I sometimes find as a GM that although I get very emotional about certain NPCs or characters or plot lines that I'm working on, I don't always have the intense like one-to-one face-to-face of a character who's going through a romantic arc or is put in danger, because I'm trying to introduce the danger or think about the
Yeah.
narrative flow. So I don't always get that same like my character almost died in this episode and my heart is literally pounding and I'm gonna go home and lie in bed and listen to songs and like cry thinking about if they had died and how they're married, like their spouse that they left behind is going to miss them. Like I love that stuff, but I don't always do it as much as a GM as I do as a player.
Yeah. I think also Alice is Missing is perfection, but it's a one shot. It is designed to be that. Having a campaign that has sustained emotion, and that's not a knock. Like it, like I'm not saying it's bad, but it's a hard thing to capture that, and that's sort of the cool thing about. And I think one of the reasons why Alice is Missing has just blown up the way it has is because it's like the amuse bouche of like emotional like gaming. Like you're gonna have this one perfect bite that the chef just prepared perfectly, and you couldn't eat a whole meal of that. It would lose how special it was, because it's so much of it is about like building up to this like ending. Having a sustained campaign, you've got to have different techniques. You've got to have, like you were just saying, ups and downs. Like oh my god, it's a nightmare for just tons of emotion all the time. You have to have laughing moments, even in horror games or whatever. Call of Cthulhu, you need to have those moments where you're all safe for a few minutes. Like, we did a zombie game years ago now. And it was just one of those games where, like, sometimes the pacing got off and you were just exhausted. Like, by the end of a game, like, we had been running from zombies the whole time. And it was just, sometimes it was just die rolls that, like, okay, we found shelter, it's fine. And then just something would go a little wrong and they got up to us again. And it was just like, by the end of it, you were just so tired. Like, I felt like I'd been running the whole time. I mean, I was younger, so I probably would have done better at the running than I would now. But the other thing I also want to point out, Verk, sometimes it's hardest to be emotionally vulnerable with people you know really well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Like there are, like, Happy Jacks is mostly like my friends and the people I hang out with the most. But, like, there are people who I'm very close with that if they sat down at a gaming table with me, I would be very self-conscious.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I could, like, roll, even though I like stream, which is weird. I guess that doesn't feel the same. But, like, if they were actually sitting at a table, I would be very self-conscious, and I wouldn't probably role play the same way I would if they weren't. So I feel like even though you've tried to get your gaming group of friends who've been around for so long to do these things, like, you also, even if you got them to do them, you may not have the experience you expect. I don't know. But I mean, that's just a kind of a thought.
Mm-hmm. Especially if, like, you've got a bunch of new people who aren't used to, like, dealing with emotions in games. I do want to bring up, like, the idea of, like, looking out for bleed.
Yeah.
Making
Yeah.
sure you do check-ins, stuff
Definitely.
like that, because when you're in a home game, and especially one with a group of your really good friends, I feel like there can be a lot of blurred lines between your character and your player. And so it's something to look out for if you also are a person who is getting into emotional games or has been doing them for a while, but, like, you're wondering why you kind of, like, feel dissatisfied
Yeah.
when something bad happens to your character and you're still dissatisfied and kind of angry about it 6 hours later.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like, think about putting in place some systems to, like, decompress and not disassociate, because that feels like a extreme case.
Yeah.
But to distance yourself from what happened, distance yourself from what happened to your character.
Yeah. I also think, so you say, Verk, that you kind of tried to lead them down some more emotional paths. You might want to facilitate a kind of discussion with this group to say, I'm interested in exploring certain emotions and bring that up with them, and then maybe suggest a short plot line to explore it a little more. It sounds like you have kind of a fun, goofy, making jokes over beer atmosphere, and players might not always realize that even if they're in character, when they're just making jokes, there's not as much of that bleed, right? You make a joke on the surface, but it's also a joke that you would have made even if your character would have made it.
Yeah.
But if you're asking your players to do a little bit more emotional role playing, it might be worth saying, on the surface, I want to go down this particular path. What if I introduce this element, and I'm interested in seeing how you guys respond to that?
Mhm.
That way you're not necessarily saying to them, like, I want this entire campaign to shift to a different tone, but you might be able to explore and see if it's satisfying with that group. So say, like, how do we feel if a major character is going through a loss?
Mhm.
Are you interested in exploring that? I want to know if that's exciting to you. But also, I know a lot of people who come to TTRPGs as a form of escapism.
Yeah.
And if that is not the mental state that they're bringing to the game, you have a really good sense of what I want from this might not be what they want.
Yeah.
So,
And we really, we compartmentalize our friends and our acquaintances and our family members in every aspect of our life. Like, we all have the friends that we're going to go see, like, Maverick with, and then we have the friends that we're going to go see, like, the English patient with, or whatever. Like that's examples. I know. I'm trying to think of, like, as opposite as possible.
You have your Barbie friends and you have your Oppenheimer
There we go.
friends.
Yes. Okay. I haven't seen either one of those movies yet because toddler, and it's just frustrating, and we were supposed to see it, but then the babysitter got sick. It's just very, I'm traumatized. But I will see them eventually. But I was like, okay, I don't know if these are actually. But yeah, Barbie friends, Oppenheimer friends is the perfect example that I was sort of steering clear of, since I was not informed. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's okay. That doesn't mean anything's wrong with those friendships.
Mhm.
I mean, you can have your beer and popcorn friends. That's totally
Yeah.
chill and that's totally fine. And that they're just as good of friends. They're just a different flavor of friends than the ones who like want to jump in and want to play Alice is Missing and all these others. And that's okay. Like, you shouldn't. I feel sometimes it comes off as like judging when we give advice about, okay, this is how you get your gaming group to try more emotional things. And I think it's really important that we emphasize too, like you were just saying, some people don't want that, and that's okay. We don't want to like yuck their yum.
Yeah.
I've been running a lot of like morning circles in class, sorry. But like that's totally valid, and you have amazing friends. I mean, you can still call them when like everything's wrong in your life, and they just don't want to deal with that stuff in games, and that's okay. So yeah, maybe like the alternating week thing that you already mentioned in your email and so answered your own question. Also,
And it also doesn't have to be, I feel like, one thing to explore if you want to get into a more emotional game is not having it be every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know it's like once a month kind of ends up feeling like we never game because then if you miss a month or whatever, but scheduling demons aside, sometimes it's just really nice to have that break, like a longer break in between your more emotional games than your like weekly like throw down, I'm gonna fireball in the face situation.
Yeah.
I also love a 3-shot for an emotional game. I feel like that's really a
Yeah.
peak for me.
Yeah.
Especially if you go for a system that's more about characters dying at the end. I can think of like Trophy, which is a game that's a little more you're playing bad people and therefore you don't expect to survive to the end of it, or something like Morkborg, which is kind of more on the OSR side of, again, playing terrible characters who are very low on hit points and might be likely to fall to the horrors of the apocalypse. You don't have to play an apocalyptic game to get that experience, but a 3-shot can be a really satisfying experience, especially if, again, you talk at the top of the table and say, we want to burn hard and fast on these characters. Like, we want to care a lot about them and then experience the sense of loss as they go.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, post-apocalyptic or apocalyptic might be a really great segue for a group that is kind of like beer and pretzels. Like, that's something they probably can clue into. I know I'm sort of stereotyping, but also I played with your group, so I kind of know your group. Like having run Starscape for them, like I have a feeling for them. So something like that where they can jump in immediately and like, have Mad Max vibes and then do like burn hard and fast, whatever it is, like might be a really good thing. I know you already said that you were trying to get them to and you tried it before and it wasn't working, but
But like, who knows? Like you start off with Mad Max and then suddenly it's Mad Max Fury Road.
yeah. You never know. And it might just be finding that system too that has that like adventure component and like clear like this is what we're doing, like we're gonna fight our way in there, but also like has some like emotional beats. Like Masks is good about that. Like there's lots of big action. It's you're teenagers and there's a bunch of fun like obviously kind of like teenagery stuff, but then there's also really deep feelings a lot of times.
I might also recommend, if you're looking for a way to find a new group that kind of runs down the middle between not a con but not a Discord either, Start Playing has great ongoing games that you can pay to become a part of, or if you want to start jamming on Start Playing. I've heard from a bunch of friends that there are some awesome GMs that they've worked with for a long time through Start Playing, because they're like paid pro GMs, and that way they start as strangers but they still have an ongoing campaign. And also sometimes a paid GM might be a great person to turn to if you're hoping for a little more emotion out of something, because you have that expectation already of, hello GM, I'm bringing this kind of character and I would really love to see like prep something cool for them. So there's a bit more of that relationship, which for some people can be uncomfortable to say, like, I'm paying my game master. But if you really want to say, I have a certain expectation that would make me really happy, it might be a little easier to have that conversation with someone that you're like,
I'm not gonna lie, like I think of like
versus friends.
paying a GM can be, if it's within your means, it can be an amazing experience.
Yeah.
Like nobody says like when somebody wants to go out and like hit some balls, nobody who goes to the batting cage, it's like, oh, I can't believe you're paying to hit baseballs. It's like, No, it's the same thing. Like, okay,
I just want to sort of
wanna
throw,
have,
you know?
like, I want to have fun. I know what I want out of this, and like, it's not something that is currently working for me to get outside of a situation, an experience that I buy.
Yeah.
Which there's nothing wrong with that. We pay to go to the movies. We
Yeah.
pay to buy books. We pay to
Get a
do all-
haircut, all these
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
And supporting GMs is always a good thing in all of our books.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
definitely do that.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch that develop, because I remember when people first started doing that, like I guess it was like 10 years ago, it seemed odd.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, well, yeah, like we do a bunch of work. And then it sort of started with, I think, like GMs on streams and stuff. Like, I'm sure it had always been something that happened at local, like friendly local gaming stores, but
Yeah.
it wasn't something that was like well known. And it's been great with like websites now that are facilitating that and things like that, and making it so much easier. Like, there's even like ratings. It's like shopping on Etsy. Like, let's see, what GM will I have?
Yeah.
Let's see. I like this. Okay, this is the
What
type.
flavor do I want to do?
I'm always interested in the
Exactly.
history of unpaid labor then becoming paid labor,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of historical examples of unpaid labor being undervalued, specifically because it's performed by women and people of color, and then later recognized as they should have been paid for this all along.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to say, like, actually, GMs, your time is worth
Yeah.
being paid for. Not that you have to be paid for it,
Yeah.
but to appreciate that there's a lot of effort and labor that can go into storytelling.
Well, and it takes it. Like, it's like hiring a professional for anything else.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's just easier to like pay someone and just know, okay, they're gonna be there every Thursday. I don't have to worry about my GM's kid getting a cold or what. I mean, I'm sure they're human, so there's things that happen. But like, it's a little bit different when it's like a professional relationship that way. I was actually watching a TikTok like half an hour ago. That was like people talking about pro GMing and how they actually game like so much more because it's a pro GM who handles all the scheduling. So they don't have even like a set day, but like the GM, because they're getting paid, handles the scheduling for everybody and makes sure, okay, we do twice a month. What days are we going to do this month? And it's just part of the service. And that's like amazing. Like,
That's
it-
worth it right there. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
100% earned the fee just to deal with the scheduling aspect.
right. So yeah, I mean, if people can put themselves out there and people are willing to pay for it, I think it's fantastic. And I think that might be, I mean, who doesn't want to be able to go like to the store and pick out the exact thing that they want? Like it's like, I don't know.
When you go to Chipotle and
I would like some of this.
I'm gonna sprinkle
some
on
of
this,
none of
eggs,
that.
and then give me a dead spouse,
Yeah.
and a cute character to flirt with.
Yeah, exactly.
like it's like a little bit of like an emotional affair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Just for
Give me a little
spice it up
apocalypse.
today.
So yeah, that might be a good suggestion.
That's
if
a great
you're
suggestion.
trying to find a new group, but you're anxious about, a con game too. It's a very brief experience
Mhm.
for high emotion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, Burke, you're the forever GM too. So like, if you go to your friendly local gaming store, it's gonna be you probably. Like, the chances of you finding the perfect group, like with the little, like the days of the little pull the phone number off the board are gone. And if you happen to meet friends, it probably would fall to you to run the game, which is
Yeah.
again not what you're looking for. So I feel like checking out paid, or there are also like, they're not like dating apps, but they're like finding game
Yeah.
like websites too. Like maybe that
That sounds
Yeah.
like a dating app.
I mean, it is, but it's not for dating.
If there was an app that I got an ad for recently about like finding your game.
yeah.
So literally. But also I'm sometimes wary to point people towards Reddit, but the looking for game group on Reddit is actually a pretty good place to find people. So
Yeah.
it's just r/LFG, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. I mean, I'm nervous about that too, but like, Burke, you are very internet savvy.
Yeah.
So I trust giving that advice to you.
Anything like that can be kind of hit or miss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like it's worth, if you're entering a new internet space to try to find people to game with, it's worth lurking. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like people don't understand the value of lurking anymore. Like, just sit back, observe what's going on,
Vibe check.
and like vibe check it, and then if it's great you can jump in, and then if it's terrible you homer into the bushes and no one ever knows.
Actually, I will ask because I'm not sure
Yeah.
about your backgrounds, but did either of you do any like RP forum roleplay
Oh my
stuff?
god. Oh my
I'm gonna
god.
just show my age right now. But, way back in the day,
Yeah.
when I was still on like a dial-up modem that you had to like sign into a service to use,
Uh-huh.
I was in a forum-based Dragon Riders of Pern
Yes.
role-playing.
I loved those books.
I wonder if we like role played together. Like I was too. Like there was a million of them. So,
but like still, like we're of an age where it might have happened.
this is now our backstory. Like no matter what the truth is, like we did Pern forum role playing
I
together.
love it. And I was on the Warrior Cat forums. of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
And like a bunch of other things like that. And I've also read some cool, like, again, histories and game theory about how forum-based roleplay is another form of like TTRPG, game
Yeah.
design. But honestly, if you're looking for some intense emotion and you're not feeling you can get it with a group, maybe looking for an RPG forum or
Yeah, play by post.
a
Play by
play-by-post
post,
yeah.
Discord server. There are a bunch of, I mean, D&D, but also other TTRPG play-by-post servers, the
Yeah.
West March style, where you can hop in and get really attached to a character. And I promise you, you go on any forum and you will find the most angsty, most emotional play-by-post roleplay ever.
Yeah.
Like, people just love it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and it's cool because it also combines like that long form, like emotional experience with that safety and anonymity that we're talking about with Alice is Missing. So you can just go in there and they never have to know who the fuck you are.
Yeah.
Like you can just be like the anonymous like emotion and then like no judgment, which I didn't think about. It's
You never
fun.
have to look at them the next day.
No, ever.
and also,
You
if
only have
feel
to
like
face
you
your
can't-
dad when he gets like the phone bill after the internet, the diet. When he's like, okay, it's been 2 days. I have to use the phone. Like, I have to use the phone.
When he comes by and he's just like, do you have any idea what the bill was last month?
Yeah.
And then walks away.
And you're like, no, but you also didn't say I had to log off right now.
And like some people can't act, but they can write like nobody's
Yeah.
business. So it's just different skill sets you might
Yeah.
find. If you really want someone who can give you the hurt,
Yeah.
it might be a writer, not
Oh,
a GM. So like a
So
GM in
often.
person, you know.
the number of times my heart's just gotten ripped out by writers.
Yeah.
Books.
So many times.
Books.
Well, like, there are, like, well, I did forum role playing, and then I did, like, MMORPG role playing.
Mm-hmm.
And the fucking nightmare politics, like, emotion, backbiting with, I have had, and with, like, I've had, like, a nemesis. Like, someone I could, I spent an inordinate amount of my life like planning the downfall of this person, and I have no idea who they are in real life. Like zero. But like I ran the Elven Library and she ran the Elven Temple, and it was just no. I was gonna be on the High Council before she was. It's a whole thing, and most of it was in Konya. Like
my God,
it
I
was a
love
lot.
And popcorn.
Yeah, like
I was on a
like,
Dark
there's
Age of
lot.
Camelot RP server back in the day.
Mhm.
It wasn't my primary server because I could not do that for as long as I wanted to be playing.
Yeah.
Back when I was in college, I had more time to do so.
Sleep was less important then.
Non-existent.
There's something about staying up till 3 a.m. just like typing frantically,
Yeah.
waiting for a reply. Something
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So good. All right, we're all just staring wistfully into the studio lights. So maybe email number 2.
Okay.
You want to read?
Sure. Hello, Kimmy and the Jackers. Band name, yes. This is Anonymous Poster from Season 3, Episode 13.
Except season 31, not season 3.
Damn it.
Okay.
Season 31, Episode 13.
Long-term fan.
Yeah.
Who asked what to do about a very traditional player who just wasn't getting PBTA playstyle. I was in the process of getting myself ready for a very difficult conversation where I was going to tell them that I didn't think this game was a good match for them when I got an email from them. They resigned from the game. They said that they had really, really tried to push their own envelope and get used to a different style of play, but concluded that story games just weren't for them. They then said they're starting a Call of Cthulhu campaign on a different night and wanted to know if I'd be interested in playing in it. I said yes.
Of course you did, because you were you.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I consider this a win-win situation. Thanks for your insight on my initial question.
Who's it?
Mike
Fernando.
Fernando, denizen of Ithaca, New York.
Yes, Mike.
I'm sorry, Mike. I got the Mike part, and then I put the paper down and was like, wait, no, there's more.
For dramatic effect, she like dropped the paper and like put her hands on the desk and was like, very well done. And yeah, for those of you who aren't on the Discord, the joke is Mike plays more games than any human should. Or we none of us understand how he plays in like 50 games a week, which maybe is a hyperbole, but only a little bit.
I know people like that.
Yeah, he's like literally in like a game every day at least. You're just like, what?
That's a lot.
It's a lot. Retirement goals, like I don't know.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I remember. I'm pretty sure that your original
Yeah. I think
question was like one of the episodes I was on. So I'm really, really glad to hear that it turned out like this. It really is. You got a win-win.
Yeah.
And you didn't even have to have the adult
I
conversation.
know. Maybe, I mean, now the reason Mike wrote in as anonymous is because they weren't sure if the player like listened to the show. So maybe they did and they were like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Like, it's possible. Like, maybe that's a whole new like segment of the show we're gonna have to like add is like breaking up with your players for you. Like you write an email and then you just maybe have this magical ability like all the problem players in a bunch of groups think it's about them, so they leave their groups.
Tell you what, we can add it as a Patreon tier.
There you go.
I love the idea of Happy Jacks RPG being like the Am I the Asshole Reddit forum, but you just have GMs coming in being like, I need to talk to my player, but I can't say it to their face, and the player's like, wait, no, I'm the asshole. It's me.
Oh my god, that's a brilliant idea. That needs to be a thing. Like we have to change it slightly, like, am I the gaming asshole or something?
Yeah.
But that, oh my god, that would be so good.
Dear Happy Jacks, am I the problem?
Am
Yeah.
I the problem? Yeah.
Oh my god. I mean, we've gotten a lot of emails like this.
I really like that idea
Yeah, I do
too,
too.
because it can be really hard in games to just determine if you made a mistake. I mean, even with safety tools, or if the GM didn't orchestrate something right, or like if you offended someone in game versus in character. So
Yeah.
I have had hour-long conversation or month-long conversations with
Yeah.
people just saying, I'm really worried about this plot point you introduced, and I think maybe it's affecting this player, but they haven't like talked to me about it, and I've been really worried about it. So,
Well, we've also had like all of us have had friendships that ended, and you always like sometimes like with gamer friends that you just kind of are like, I wonder if this had something to do with that, or I wonder if this fed into something else. And like we were talking about bleed earlier, like that's a legit thing that has affected my friendships. Like there have been times where we've had really intense sessions or something happened, and you do have to decompress as friends later, or like you don't. And then, like, you realize someone hasn't talked to you in a couple weeks, and you're like, hey, what's up? You've been busy? Well, no, I'm really upset about what happened. And you're like, something happened.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's, like, really easy in these big, emotional, messy games, regardless of the rules, like, to accidentally step on people's toes. And, like, yeah. So, I don't know. I might have to figure out how we can, like, organize that. Ha, 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 ha.
Oh, yes, I love this.
I also just love the, conversation about concluding story games don't work for you, talking about how different systems just don't work for everyone. I feel like that's been kind of a theme of this episode.
Yes.
So very glad that resolved. There are certain game systems that I am just not interested in ever, and would find difficult to do it, in a campaign. So knowing that about yourself can be difficult to figure out, but very helpful.
Yeah.
No.
But you're obviously not the asshole if they invited you into their other game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like here it's like no problems here.
No, it's
Because
yeah.
This player was trying. They put in a good faith effort, realized it wasn't for them, pivoted.
Yeah.
And then obviously your relationship is good, or you wouldn't have gotten invited to the other game.
Yeah.
So it really is I want to wave these two situations in front of people and be like, see, it can work out great.
Yeah. It's definitely a success story. through no actions of your own, but it's still wonderful and
I
worth
feel like
celebrating.
this player too has done our advice work for us, because what they did is they thought about their role in the game. They might have been sad about having to leave the game, but they still set up a future opportunity, communicated about it, took the initiative on that. And again, you can always start another campaign and invite someone if you want to play it. Taking on the role of the GM is a great way to solve things if you're not satisfied with what's going on in a TTRPG because you get to pick.
Yeah.
So
Just like in the last email, you have your Barbie gamer friends and you have your Oppenheimer gaming friends.
Yes.
I feel like I want to make that like meme now. Like, what movie are like trope are you with like gaming? Like, okay, are you? Yeah, okay. I don't know. I'm not gonna actually do that because I don't have time in my life. But
No.
if someone wants to go run with that.
I feel it's like Wander Home and GURPS.
Yeah. I feel like those are such extreme examples.
Yeah.
Although Wonder
Just
Home,
have like a whole like
yeah.
face about it. Like, ugh.
GURPS has such a bad reputation, but it is like it's not as bad as it really like. Like there's a lot of small like we were talking about this yesterday, like when you came over, and like we were like, there's a lot of math, but it's like small, easy math. Like,
But that's I actually mentioned this yesterday as
Yeah.
well. But like that I'm actually as a person better with like smaller chunks of bigger math
Yeah.
than I am with like 20 tiny maths.
yeah, there's a much higher chance of like making mistakes than when you have lots of tiny maths. But yeah, I don't know. I think I also was just super spoiled when I played GURPS with just incredible GMs who made it like so easy and invisible.
Yeah,
Like any system can be super amazing if you have an incredible GM who's just like, roll.
so true.
This is what happens, and you like don't even have to like address the math. It's like they just like make all that invisible because they do it all. You're like, okay, this is amazing. All right, mailbag number 3. Hey y'all, in case you're stressed for emails, we are. Please send emails. Here's a quick set of lightning round questions that might stimulate some conversation. Enjoy. 1. Would you rather GM or play? Really quick. Good job,
Play.
Jim.
Alex. I don't know. Okay. It depends on the system. I don't think I will ever want to play the One Ring. I think I will always want to jam that game, like forever, because it is just like in my heart permanently forever. And I stole a bunch of it to put in Starscape because I love it so much. Other systems, I'm like, fuck no, I don't want to jam that game. Hell no.
I am always the Like I always want to be the GM.
Oh,
It's
really?
just my favorite thing in the world to do.
That's
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I find that like I'm still in the hump of anxiety about it.
Yeah.
So like maybe I'll feel differently and come to me again in 5 years and we'll see if I'm a different person and want different things from my gaming.
It really, my transition from player to GM, I had so much love for the game, and then becoming a GM, I think I hit a button in my head where I'm like, every time I GM, I generate serotonin.
Yeah.
And I've played in games that don't always generate serotonin, so I'd rather keep pushing that button because I
Makes
know
sense.
it'll work, even though I also love being a player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. 2. Is there a game that you always wanted to play or run but never did? Why are you drawn to it, and what's stopping you from playing? Alex, you go first on this.
I really want to play in a RPG game. I've gotten to story tell a RPG game, and we didn't get to finish it all the way through, and it was really fun. And I do think that's one I would really enjoy because the games that I really want to play but haven't gotten to tend to be the more like really niche story ones where
Yeah.
you're going through a kind of very specific experience. So it might be not like like a Pathfinder or a One Ring where you can kind of tell any story, but like we are going to tell this really cool like story of a comic or story of a descent into madness or something like that. And therefore I want to have like that play experience. So for RPG, I really want to play as a dictator in a RPG game, which is the you can use your voice to manipulate people, and I just want to have a game where I actually feel safe doing that. Where like I've got all the safety tools, I've got the GM I would trust, I've got the players I would trust to actually be able to negotiate very carefully a game where I'm exploring what it means to have the power to have people do what you say.
Yeah.
Nice. Aegon.
Love that game system.
I've had it for like 3 years, I think now, like just sitting in the folder, waiting.
I keep forgetting how prolific John Harper is. He's just
Yeah.
everywhere.
Just
Everywhere.
write so much.
Crazy.
But for those of you who haven't heard of it, it is like a Odyssey style RPG where you play the crew of a ship coming back from a war, and you are trying to get home, and you hit up all these different islands with different scenarios, and like there's the interference of the gods and monsters and mythic, and it just I want to play.
Wild thing about Aegon, it's actually one of the games that got me into TTRPGs because the first ever like getting closer to TTRPG experience I had. I took my first year seminar in college, was with a game designer professor, and it was called Classical History and RPGs. And so we studied like the Odyssey and then played Aegon.
Amazing.
It was really
So
fun.
cool. That's amazing. Let's see. For me, I think Bluebeard's Bride. I want to play that so bad, and it's one of those things where like I just keep missing it. Like different people run it, and I just like, oh, I'm busy at that point. Also, like I have a kid, it makes it harder to schedule things. I just really, really, really want to play that game, and it's so beautiful, and I know so much about it, and I know people who worked on it, and I'm just like, it's like I just like. It's like ship I keep passing in the night and going, there's a ship I want to play on. And it's like, yeah. So someday it will happen.
And it's so good.
It's so good. Every time I've run it has been transformative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. It's just like so. And so now you have to.
Yeah, I would love to
I
run
would
it
love
for
it.
you.
Oh my god.
I would so like. I will
my God.
come here and
Okay.
run Bluebeard's
We'll
Bride.
do like a one shot next month with it.
Yeah,
That'd be
well, we
amazing.
were planning that anyway.
Yeah,
so yeah, I've run Bluebeard's Bride on a virtual tabletop platform, which was really interesting because we kind of designed the rooms together using the assets, which was really fun. And then I played an amazing game with another friend whose name is also Pooja for a charity stream.
You played with the other Pooja?
Yes, which was awesome. And we were raising money for abortion rights.
Yeah.
I was like fund abortion rights in Texas, which was again a very emotional experience because it's about
Huge
a
thing.
lot of feminine experiences. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would just adore playing that. I even like my husband is like looking for his next. He makes like fan films and stuff in his spare time with his movie company. So he was like, "Well, do you think I could do like an RPG of a movie?" I'm like, "Okay, there's this game called Bluebeard's Bride," and it would be an amazing, and it would kind of be like sort of like a bottle episode because like you could do like one house and like decorate. Like I was pitching him, he's like, "Well, when did you play this?" I've never played it, but here's the book and look how pretty it is. He's like, "Okay."
I remember watching an AP of it and just being like,
Yeah.
I have to have.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, it was a transformative is a really good way to put it.
Yeah. I love Magpie as a company. I feel like they sometimes over design some of their games where there's like too many like what we call hats. Too many hats on the system where there's just like, okay, this is a cool mechanic and this is a cool mechanic and this is a cool mechanic, but together it just gets a little crunchy, a little bit like inelegant, and I just feel Bluebeard's Bride is one of those games that is just like
So
the
what you're-
perfect balance.
What you're saying is sometimes there are too many raccoons in the trench coat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Sometimes you get Bluebeard's Bride and it's just like beautiful in perfection. And sometimes you get the updated version of Urban Shadows. And you're just like, okay, there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of things there that some of which I might ignore. But
I would also say something about Bluebeard's Bride in relation to our first email. It's one of those systems that's just designed to give you a very specific and emotional experience.
Mhm.
And so you get that, like, by choosing to even play the game, you're already leaning into the themes. You're already leaning into being in a particular mindset for the experience. So when you go into it, it's that perfect bite,
Yeah.
right? You just know what you're going to get out of it, and you set yourself up to think about something really intense.
Mhm.
And then if you actually, like, have that intense experience, you learn something from it. So
Yeah.
so cool.
I'm already hyped. I'm already hyped about it. Oh my gosh. Even if it doesn't have to be next month, but I want this to happen
I mean,
so
but next
badly.
month is October, so yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, that'd be so
Bluebeard's Bride Halloween is like
Oh my
peak,
god.
Yeah,
peak.
And we could put together an amazing table. For
I
that.
bet we could.
So
Another really interesting thing about Bluebeard's Bride is that normally one of my safety lines is I tend to be uncomfortable with discussions of miscarriage and like intense pregnancy and abortion, especially in games. But I've never had that line in Bluebeard's Bride,
Mhm.
if only because it is a game that is about discussing how certain kinds of experiences for people who might be femme or not femme, but just like experiences that are more often aligned with, femme identity are traumatic. It's about talking
Yeah.
about that and role playing through that. And so with that lens and framework, you actually get to explore like this isn't something that's casual.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we can talk about emotional experiences and also like the amount of trust that it takes to be at a Bluebeard's Bride table. Like you want to make sure that you have safety tools in place. And like Alex mentioned, like there are a lot of topics that the game is meant to discuss that would be a normal lines for a lot of us, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, like it adds to the need to make sure that your table is really good with using their X card, or in the case of Bluebird's, what I think works really well is like the pause rewind
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
or fast forward system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they've got the script change.
Yeah, the script change
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
So
That's a great one. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, there have been opportunities for me to play, and I just kind of like looked, and even though it was people I really liked and cared about, I was just like, I feel like this isn't gonna be the experience. Like, I don't know. And a lot of times, like, through no fault of their own, like, especially like cis men were running it and stuff like that, and it was just like, which is valid. Like, the game is meant to be played by anyone. I want to stipulate that there's like guides in there for how to play no matter what. But just personally, that's not the experience like I wanted with it as my like first experience with Bluebird's Ride. Like,
well,
I
this
wanted,
comes back
yeah.
to like, you know what you want,
Yeah.
and going after it.
Yeah.
Like whether it be that, you know, Alex is here at this table with you,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if you
Amazing.
went on and like, you know, like found a GM, like a pro GM to
Yeah.
run that for you,
Yeah.
with the expectation that it's like, this is the experience I want out of this game.
Yeah.
Like, there is nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's also another great example of a game that achieves a goal through being very specific about an experience.
Yeah.
Again, like I have personal safety tools that might come into play, or personal like experiences that might come into play for
Yeah.
Bluebird's Bride, which is about like trauma and femininity and all these like power dynamics and relationships. There are other games that are examples of deliberately choosing to explore a topic that you don't want to necessarily explore in like a fantasy way,
Yeah.
but rather want to buy into.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you would never discuss transphobia in a game because you just don't want to face it,
Yeah.
but you're still interested in telling a story about it with a very specific system. So
Yeah. Or a specific cast. Like we did
Yeah.
Hexbreakers, and Emily GM did. And we did, because, you know, Riley was playing, we did explore, like I was the only straight person at the table, mostly because we were new to, and I was like running the thing, and like I had a discussion with them about it ahead of time, and they were like, no, we're very comfortable with you being part of this, telling this story. And it was very much like a fuck you to Harry Potter, like exploration of a magic school. And Emily told this amazing story that was so personal because of like that trust at the table, and because we all sat down to explore that specific topic, even though it's something that I think everyone at the table most of the time has on our lines and veils.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a thing we just want to like willy-nilly explore, but like in this experience we want to tell a story about this thing and about facing transphobia. And it was beautiful. It was an amazing story because of that buy-in, despite it usually being a line or veil. Sorry, I was just agreeing in like anecdotal form.
yeah.
That's awesome.
And also bragging on Emily because she's amazing and I love her so much.
She is.
And she has the cutest baby ever. Not ever, because my baby was cuter. But I have to say that, and I do. But she has the cutest current baby. Yes, because my baby's not a baby anymore. Anyway, we should probably end the podcast.
We have 3 more questions.
Oh,
Two
I'm
more
sorry.
questions.
We devolved into me talking about babies. I've had like 3 hours sleep in the last 24 hours. So, number 3. What movie, book, / show do you wish you could participate in an RPG that doesn't currently exist? That's a big question.
Okay, I've said I think I haven't talked about it here, but it is something I've talked about before, that I love me some urban fantasy books. And there are 2 different series that I would love to play in an RPG world for.
Yeah.
The first of which is the Alona Andrews Kate Daniels series, which I was like, so much bonkers stuff goes on, and it's just really like a fun set of books, and they're constantly expanding that world. They're still releasing books. Like, there's the main 10 books, and that tells a complete story, but they have a couple of spin-off series going out from that. So the world is large enough to tell a bunch of RPG stories that don't have to do with like Atlanta or Kate. Then Shannon McGuire has a series called Wayward Children. And it is a portal fantasy series about children who find portals. And what happens to, it's both about what happens to them on the other side and what happens to them when they get home. And I like if I was a game design kind of person, that is the system that I would make.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at that.
So good.
Yeah,
And they're
I'm-
all like novellas, so they're really short.
Oh.
So easy to quick to get through.
Excellent.
I was thinking through multiple different answers because I feel like as soon as I say a particular show or movie or book, if it's even vaguely popular enough, I'm sure there's an RPG experience that could,
That could
hit
yeah.
on it, right? But I think my real answer is probably related to Roll Doll. Like, I really want a Roll Doll experience out of an RPG, and I don't off the top of my head know one, and I don't just mean like the flavor of it, but like I want to play through Matilda. Like, I want to have
Yeah.
that experience. I
Yeah.
think that would be really cool.
That'd be amazing. Mine is actually one of my very favorite books ever of all time is a book called The Giver, which we all read in school. And now we read it in school, but like, because all of us who like read it on our own grew up and became teachers and started making everyone else read it as part of the curriculum. I think that's what happened. The movie's terrible. So it's not terrible, but you can't capture the book in a visual form because one of the coolest things about it is it's like kind of like dystopian, like maybe post-apocalyptic. You're never really quite sure, but it's this like group of people that are isolated. And I don't want to like give it away because you should absolutely fucking read it, even though it's like a young adult book. Like, you go fucking read it. It'll take you like half an hour. Like, no, it'll take a little longer than that. But it's a very quick book. If I can get fourth graders and to read it, like, you can read it. There are things you assume when you start reading the book that you find out aren't true about how you perceive the world around you. And it's just like, it was one of those pivotal moments where I just fell so much, like, I was a reader anyway, but I read that book and there's a moment where like a sense that you suddenly realize they weren't doing it the same way you do. I don't want to give like spoilers because you really should read this book. And you realize that they've been controlled to a degree where their senses aren't even something they can fully trust. And then they slowly, like, different people are breaking out of it and things like that. And I would love to be able to distill, and I've thought about it, but I have no idea how to do that, where you start a game with like an assumption, and as you play the game, you realize how limited you are, and then you're able to break out of that.
Yeah.
I have no idea how to do it mechanically, but would be like an incredible experience. I don't know if I'd even want to have it be like a one-on-one, like, okay, you are playing the Giver. But I think that would be just such a phenomenal experience.
Yeah. My immediate thought for that is that you're not allowed to roll dice at all until like later you actually physically get something that allows you to roll
Oh
a
yeah.
mechanic. Like, you just do not have the method to do a mechanic, even if you've heard people doing it. And you're like, oh my god, now that I've got a d20, I can roll it.
Yeah, like maybe you're just told until something happens, something triggers, where suddenly you have a chance at the truth.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay. Interesting. Such a big list now. Let me write this down too.
Yeah. Same thing with like a card game. Like, you have to spend a card to do a mechanic, but there's never cards on the table until
Yeah.
you like open a door and suddenly the GM hands you a card.
A card. Yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. That'd be super cool. But anyway, yeah, I love that book. And they tried really hard with the movie, and there's just no way to do it. You can't do it.
It's not like, because you don't get that the same kind of revelations
Yeah.
you do in that format.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh god, we still have one more.
Okay, 4. When you sit down with a new GM, what's the top 1, 2, 3, your choice, things you look for that you know will make this a great game? What about the worst thing that will make you go to the washroom and never come back at a con game? That's been our suggestion quite a few times. Thanks for the wisdom and entertainment, Ken from Canada. I haven't gone first yet. I guess I'll go first this
Yeah.
time. Like safety tools, 100%.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, I feel like that's a good. I feel like that shouldn't even be an answer because that's such an easy answer. So that's cheating. I think the other thing is asking for input, because I'm just gonna like safety tools 100% should just be the number one thing and should happen all the time. But if you sit down and they're just sitting and shuffling papers and not paying attention to you, you make your character specifically at a con game or whatever, and they're just like focused on their story and they don't ever ask about what's on your character sheet, then it's like it's a little bit of a red flag for me. Like I've played those con games before, but it's also like, so who I made, not like what they can do, but who I made doesn't matter to the story.
Mhm.
And you were gonna run the exact same story no matter what.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, like one of the things like with a new GM, like when they are not only asking about like your character's backstory and some details, but then like maybe making a couple of suggestions to like even push you further, then you know it's gonna be, it's like I'm rubbing my hands together, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
And then the other things that like I really, really love to see is just when you're there and the GM like starts the session and you're in that first session, and they can often feel like first sessions are first sessions. They're gonna feel like there's a lot of stage setting. There's a lot of like, building the scenery going on. But when the GM makes sure to give you a couple of opportunities to have your players have really like meaty scenes, especially with each other.
Yeah.
I love that. I just, it makes me like, it warms my heart. And also I feel like it's a mark of, a really skilled GM. Like I know that that's not necessarily a skill I particularly have yet, but it is one that I aspire to.
Mm-hmm.
And then my washroom things, outside of obviously like disrespecting boundaries and safety tools is like, sometimes something really bad happens to a character because of a poor roll. And like there is the